I just wish I knew more about art. I feel like I should be a better gay on that front.
I mean,
am I an okay gay?
you can keep your card.
Okay. I'm doing all right.
Yeah. I'm still like, I haven't recovered from you just now discovering Fleetwood Mac, so.
That other lady gets a song I said.
Oh, Christine, like, oh my God.
Hi, Jillian Benzavali.
Hi, Patrick Hines.
Oh, fam, join our Facebook group, please. We got about 52,000 people in there. It's so fun. We're in there all the time. We're just making friends. We're talking about the episodes. It's where you learn about things like the meetups that I'm doing this summer.
Yeah.
All like the merch is coming back soon. It's all announced in there first.
Yeah, and you're just like talking about episode stuff and like showing
learning
us
about true crime stuff. Yeah, the dog stuff is wild.
Lots of bear memes now.
This time of year, there's a lot of weddings going on in there.
Yeah, lots happening.
I loved it.
I'm a fan.
It's the True Crime Obsessed podcast discussion group. Just go find it on Facebook. We'll let you in.
Yeah.
We'll let you in.
Yeah. Also, can I just say something?
Please.
I am wearing a very cool shirt. It's Who's Afraid of Little Old Me, which is one of my all-time favorite Taylor Swift songs.
Yep.
Someone sent it to me.
What?
But didn't say. So reveal yourself, dear listener, because I love the shirt. Thank you so much. But I can't like DM them or find them. It was just like appeared in my P.O. box.
That's amazing.
So thank you.
Somebody
but reveal yourself, please.
Somebody from the Salt Lake City group when I went out there made me a Bourbon Liberty shirt.
Amazing.
Bourbon Liberty. Are you kidding me?
Best listeners.
I know. All right, girl. What are we talking about today?
The Thief Collector. We're talking about a whole lot, but it's called The Thief Collector. It's on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
It wasn't a heist you'd see in a Hollywood movie.
Authorities still don't know who took it.
It's a mystery, an unsolved case.
Many thought a $160 million masterpiece was gone forever until it turned up in Silver City.
Rita and Jerry Alter were my aunt and uncle.
Oh, they were definitely soulmates, and he would do anything for her.
Their house was full of souvenirs from their travels around the world.
It seems like this couple is really the story here. They're the mystery.
If you got the right psychology, you go after that painting. You take it, you make it yours.
They saw themselves as masters of victimless crimes.
This is crazy to me that it was just hanging up on their wall.
We didn't know the real Jerry and Rita.
The Thief Collector is the darkest of them all.
We're in Silver City, New Mexico. We're with I'm gonna come to really love these guys, but at first I was like, "What are we doing?" We're walking into a house with a bunch of bros with like backwards hats and shorts, and they're just like looking. They're like taking things off these people's walls and like appraising. I didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah, we're they call it like hotel art.
Yes,
the Playboy memorabilia plates.
So what we're gonna learn is that these people own like an antique shop, and what they do is they buy these estates, and then they go through and see what they want. So like that's what's happening here, but I didn't understand what was happening. I'm like, are we breaking into this house?
What's going on?
Right.
Also, this doc is very stylized, lots of reenactments. Glenn Howerton, who is Dennis from Always Sunny, and Sarah Minnick, I IMDb'd her. She was in an episode of Better Call Saul.
No
So we got like
way.
real big time actors in this, just acting the hell out of it. Now, if you don't know who Glenn Howerton is, Dennis from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is maybe like the most vile fictional character ever. Like they make him like
really?
He's like a psychotic person.
Is that a good show?
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, if you got to think that long about it.
The point is that they're all terrible. So if you're easily offended, it's not really. I mean, the episode.
She's hemming and hawing, fam. She's hemming and hawing.
The Gang Beats Boggs is the best episode by far, where they try to drink as many beers as they can. The Wade Boggs thing on the plane. It's like that's Charlie's like the best.
Oh my god, I love it.
And I think Caitlin Olsen is fearless as a comedian.
Okay, well, I could talk to you about this all day.
But I haven't watched every episode, so I can't really tell you.
So you know.
I don't know.
So we jump to 2017. We meet Burke Burns. He's the co-owner of Manzanita Ridge Antiques. These are the guys that were just in the house like 2 seconds ago.
Yeah, it's Rick, Buck, and Dave.
Yes. We learned that the house that they're in was the home of the Alters. It's the Alter estate. And they say it's kind of like a time capsule. So we'll learn all about the Alters. That's like what the whole documentary is about, is Jerry and Rita Alter and their crazy wild life. So we'll get there. But these guys have bought their house for the stuff in it.
Yeah.
And they're like going through it to see what they want.
The house was strange. The yard was strange. There were tiled pyramids and obelisks in the yard. There were these very strange pillars that formed a circle that had busts on top of them, and it was very creepy feeling.
They said it was just like a really creepy feeling, but like it's all of this like cool, artsy stuff. We're going to learn that this is a couple where there was only one income and somehow they have all of this crazy art stuff.
Right. Like they kind of, our antique guys, our appraisers are kind of saying like, you kind of got the sense they were kind of cool and hip. Like he played the saxophone. She was a model.
Yeah.
They were world travelers and they always had these artifacts of places they went. There's like a whole room of these artifacts from Africa.
They were teachers. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's a little...
I guess we'll figure out how they managed to do all that.
Well, they also had, quote, the most hideous paintings you've ever seen. There were 75 of them.
And they all are in the same style. So it's like they've got these cool artifacts and like cool artsy things all around the property. But then like throughout like the living room and the hallways and the bedroom, they've got these really ugly paintings. Now, once again, I will say I am a hashtag gay with no taste. But even I can tell that these paintings are ugly. Even I know that.
And there are a lot of them. There's 75. And Jerry Alter, who's the previous owner of this house, had painted them.
Yes.
He also wrote a lot of stories. He wrote poetry. He fancied himself a pretty artsy guy.
Yeah, and they're dead now. Jerry and Rita, whose house this was, they're dead now.
Yeah. But anyway, so they're going through the house and they find one last painting that doesn't look like anything else in the house.
But they find this painting in the master bedroom behind a door.
Hidden away.
Right, like it's on the wall, like it's displayed, but when the door to the bedroom is open, this door would be covering this painting.
Right.
And it looks really different from all the rest of the paintings. It looks like a very like a modern,
very mid-century modern.
Very mid-century. I think it looks really cool. They're all trying to decide if they even want to take it.
Well, Dave is like...
Truthfully, probably the ugliest painting I've ever seen in my life. I would have left it behind the bedroom door in the house.
Said, oh, okay, then we'll take that.
I brought it down in the backseat of my pickup truck.
And it went on top of all of the spears and jaggedy, items.
Honestly, now that you're asking me, I wouldn't piss on it if it was on fire. Honestly, if we're getting down to it. Like, he hates the painting. Yeah. But they take it anyway.
They take it, but they take it where they kind of just like toss it in the truck with the rest of like the spears and like taking no special care with this painting.
Right. And they take the painting, it's in their store or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not there 10 minutes before someone is like, are you kidding? Is this thing real? And they were like, what are you talking about?
So this guy who's asking this question, his name is James Curetta. He's an artist. He's the guy who saw the painting, and he sees on the painting the name De Kooning.
James said, I'm pretty sure this is real, and I'm interested in buying it if it is.
And I offered Dave $200,000 for it.
And of course, I'm thinking he's kidding, so I go, sold. And he walks around the corner to the desk, and he says, I'm serious.
I'm fucking serious. Like, I will give you $200,000 right now. Now, this guy, James, the artist, all we know about him is that he lives in his van. We do not know how he has $200,000, but he says he does.
Yeah, and he has big plans for it.
Yeah.
AKA, it's going to go in a storage unit.
Yeah.
Is what he says. He's like, it probably would have gone in my storage unit.
We never see this guy again. I would love to know how he came into a cool $200,000, but he lives in his van.
Right.
No, we're never going to find out.
He's one of these off-the-grid guys. For sure.
Somebody get eyes on James.
And so the guys are like, something weird is going on. Like, why do we have this? Why was it kind of hidden? The house was weird, and now this artist is here.
And like once again, it can't be overstated. Like, this painting doesn't look like any of the other paintings in the house.
They also didn't sell it to the guy, by the way.
Yeah, correct.
They were just like,
no, we're gonna look into
this. Whole thing is too weird.
Yep.
As tempting as the $200,000 in cash is.
On the spot. And it was also, the painting was just like hidden away behind a door. So like, it is weird. So the guy, Dave, from the antique store, he gives it a goog. He says 4 pages in, he comes across an article from the Arizona Republic. And this article is titled, Unsolved Arizona Mystery, De Kooning painting valued at $100 million missing for 30 years.
30 years.
This is the painting.
Right.
This is the painting that they have. Now, I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop and to find out that this was some kind of reproduction. Nope.
No, this is it.
This is the missing painting that's worth $100 million that was hanging in the house of these dead people that had all this other shitty art and like artifacts all around the house.
Right. And the painting is called Woman Ochre.
Yes.
So here's the De Kooning story.
Yeah.
He's an abstract painter born in the Netherlands. He came to America in 1926. He, quote, suffered for decades.
Yeah.
Like all great artists
like,
do.
Girl, who hasn't?
Like
oh my God.
Lived on
when
the
is
edge.
my suffering going to end? Do we know?
Jesus Christ.
Can I get a time on that? We'll have Natalie put it in the Google Cal.
Please. Set an alert for it.
The day Patrick's suffering ends.
I want a reminder. 10 minutes before. So he suffered, lived on the edge, and then he had a lot of success. Like he just exploded.
Yeah, because they say
he had made one of the best fancy pants styles, his black and whites of the late 40s, abstract paintings. So then he moved from there to this rude, squawky,
women series.
They say that he moved from there to his Rude, Squawky Woman series. Now, this painting is from that series where he's painting, larger-bodied women in this very abstract way. They're gorgeous. We see the paintings. They are super cool.
And he said, beauty is petulant. I like the grotesque. It's more joyous. I wouldn't call these women grotesque by any stretch. They're not a size 2.
Take my shirt off. That's a painting of me. You know what I mean?
Gorge.
But they say it was his 1953 show, The 6 Big Women, was his major breakthrough. But not only was it a breakthrough for him, De Kooning he helps to establish the American art scene. They say he became one of the first rock stars of the American art scene.
Yeah. After that, he did another set of paintings, and that's what the Woman Ochre is from.
Yes.
So Woman Ochre was donated to the University of Arizona Museum of Art in the early 60s. And the museum had a really small collection, but everything they had was great.
Yeah, and they say that the Woman Ochre was like the backbone of the collection.
Right. Like the fact that this painting was at this museum was like a big deal to everyone. It really meant a lot. It was like super, super special.
And one of the things we never really get into, we learned that the painting at the time that it was donated was worth somewhere around $400,000.
Wow.
At the time that it was recovered, it was worth $160 million.
That's crazy.
I believe that it was the stealing of the painting that made it worth $160 million. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like $160
the mystery of it, that it's been missing for 30 years.
all those years.
Totally.
Wild.
So we meet Chief Brian C. Stone,
yes.
University of Arizona Police Department, and he has a whole binder about
He's been on this case from the beginning. He was one of the first officers to respond back in 1985.
And he's showing it to us. He's like, these are just, just some things that helped me over the years, like newspaper articles and all of his notes. Like this was his Everest.
There are specific cases that each officer in their career just is there for all of their career, that they think about. What could we have done better that day? Is there anything we could have done more of?
This is his
totally
case.
What are they? The Roman
White Whale.
Empire?
Oh yeah, sure.
It was his Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which is something I think about every single day.
You love.
I love it. I wish
show.
I could get you to watch it. It's so good.
I know. It's not.
It's not as big of a lift as Modern Family, which someday, fam, you need to really bully her into watching Modern Family.
Was it last recording? You were like mad about it. Like
well,
I was walking out the door.
I know.
And you were like, I just wish you'd watch it. And I was like,
it's been 8 years.
Where did that even come from?
It's been 8 years.
As much as you think about Maisel, you think about the fact that I haven't watched Modern Family.
That's really
because
true.
that literally came out of nowhere.
I know.
I was like, I was leaving.
So we go back to 1985. It's the day after Thanksgiving. This is the day that the painting is stolen. The campus of the University of Arizona, where the museum is, where the painting is stolen from, the campus is closed, but the museum is open.
And so we meet Josh Goldberg, who's a former staff member, and he's going to tell the story the best as he can remember it. It's been a long time.
It's been a really long time. He says he got to work and he was surprised because there were 2 people sitting on a bench just outside of the museum, a man and a woman. Now, remember, this is the day after Thanksgiving. This is like the slowest museum day of the year.
And he's surprised, and it's Jerry and Rita. Spoiler, it's the people who own the house we were just in.
Yeah.
And he opens the museum. These 2 basically push him out of the way. They can't get in the museum fast enough.
We don't know for sure that it's Jerry and Rita.
It totally is.
But the thing is, like, this is the mystery of the documentary. It's like, I'm with you. I think it is Jerry and Rita, but they were never accused of this crime, and they were never like charged with this crime, and they were never like, fam, you're gonna have to decide if they're the bad guys here, and if they are, they got away with everything. They never got caught. They died. The only reason this painting was ever found was because they died, and these guys bought their house to see what kind of paintings they had.
How else did they get it?
No, who knows? I mean, it's a good question. It's a good question.
They stole it.
I'm with you.
firmly in the camp of this was Jerry and Rita.
I know. I totally agree. But just to go on the record, like, they were never officially accused of this crime.
Fair enough.
But I believe you. I'm with you. I think it was them.
So 2 people.
Yeah. And this is one of the reenactments. We see this all in, and it's very stylized. It looks great.
It's very, yeah.
Yeah.
So they're sitting there waiting for the museum to open, and they practically push poor Josh out of the way to get in. They need to be in immediately.
I know.
So the couple, they start exploring the museum.
And there's no one else there. It's just them and the staff. And there's only like 3 people on staff that day.
And because Josh just opened, he's like getting settled for the day.
Yeah.
He's going into his office. He's like checking in with the other employees.
He's got to pee. He almost doesn't remember to wash his hands.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And now we see the reenactment of Dennis from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia carving the painting out of the frame.
Now, the thing about this
and he's wearing a purposely ridiculous fake mustache.
The mustache is ridiculous. The woman she's like distracting the guard, the only one guard in the museum. The guard kind of gets a sense that something's happening, but the woman is talking to her. The man is like very nervous, and he takes a box cutter and he's cutting this painting out. That was really hard to watch for me.
It sucks.
Like, it's really hard, like this like priceless work of art. Like, because I think about the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, and these are like
frames.
these Renaissance paintings from like the 1500s. They did this. They took
get like a box cutter to
butcher
them.
knives, and they just cut them out. but they're also very nervous. I was expecting them to be very confident, and at least in the reenactment, Rita and Jerry, if that's who they are very, very nervous.
And this is just a choice from the director and the actors. That part we'll never know.
We'll never know.
It's totally them.
I know.
And museum employees who, by the way, can't be thrilled they're working the day after Thanksgiving.
No, and it's also so the security, finally, the man gets the painting cut out, rolls it up, puts it in his jacket, starts to walk out. The security guard sees him do this and rather than stopping him, runs back to the painting to make sure that it was stolen.
Right.
Then goes downstairs, gets another security guard who he walks.
It feels unbelievable.
Right. But he walks right past these people and out the front door, and rather than chasing him, they run up the stairs like it's a horror movie to go make sure the painting was stolen, and then by the time they come down, it's gone. It's too late and they're gone.
Right. So they run to the car.
Yeah.
Rita drops her bag, and we hear this, and most directors probably wouldn't have included this little bit of audio. But he's like, Rita, what are you doing? And it's just it's such a small thing. But it kind of adds to the whole stylized, the panic of it.
Yeah.
So Bob Whitman is the founder of the FBI art crime team. Founder.
Can we stop on this for 1 second?
Of course.
My whole thing here is I do love that this unit of the FBI exists. Could we find all the missing kids first? You know what I mean? Could we put some of those guys and women on the missing kids and then do the art?
Yeah,
you know
the trafficking stuff.
Yeah,
Can we figure that out?
If we've got the able-bodied people doing the FBI good work, maybe we find all the missing people first.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
Look, you're the one who loves art heists.
I know.
I do not care at all.
I know.
This is my cults and the mob. I just don't give a shit.
Cults are growing on me, I will say. I'm
Love
getting
is
a
one,
little.
did it?
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't get any weirder.
You know what they say, nobody joins a cult. It starts slow.
I know.
Here you go.
I know. You know what you said the other day that really fucked me?
What?
Betrayal never comes from the enemy.
Yep.
Hey, you said that to me, and it was right to the
when
heart.
When it's the enemy, it's just an attack.
Exactly.
But
when it's betrayal,
that's the and I know, real hot take. That's literally the definition of betrayal.
Yeah.
Betrayal. But when you say it like that,
I know.
Oof maron. My goodness.
Anyway, I love that it exists. I'm just saying, find the kids.
Great.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Totally.
So after,
you do care about finding the kids.
I do. I most certainly do.
Okay, just checking.
So after 30 years, he's learned there are 3 types of thieves.
Yes.
Number 1, thieves of opportunity.
Now, when he's describing this, he's talking about a person who's I'm at a museum, I see a painting I want, and I just take it. We see a security camera footage of this actually happening.
Yeah.
We don't know where it's from or when.
It.
This guy, and it's in front of a bunch of other people. He walks up to the wall, takes a painting off the wall, and walks away. Nobody stops him.
Really ties the room together. I'm going to take this one home with me.
The Mona Lisa, you know what I mean?
You know what I'm saying?
Just going to put that right over the manse.
So that's number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2 is the ones who want money. And he's these are the largest grouping, by the way. To sell it on the whatever market, right? So 3 is the thief who steals for themselves. And this is very, very rare.
And those are the most dangerous. And they're the hardest to capture. And the reason for that is they don't steal for money. And nor do they steal because it happens to be there. They think about it. They steal these materials. They hide them. They keep them for their own eyes only. And those things go away for many years before they come back.
People just want it for themselves. They don't tell anybody that they have it.
They're
not bragging. I don't understand that part. This is the part that I don't understand how they did this, because they had all this shit for all these years and they lived like they didn't have a lot of money and they never told anybody. Right. I don't know how they did that.
I don't know if they're really living like they don't have a lot of money when they're traveling the world every week.
That's true. That's true.
I would be like, how are you? Some retirement fund.
That's a big question.
Big question.
We'll get there.
Now, the main theory at first that this was a contract job, that someone wanted this painting. They paid the thieves to steal it the day after Thanksgiving. It's a slow day.
Yeah, and they're saying the FBI is we monitor all those black markets and we assumed we'd get the painting back the next day. It would show up and we would buy it and we'd have it back, but that is not what happened.
Right. And there's nothing to investigate really. There are no prints, and even if there were, it's 1985.
But this is what makes me crazy, because at least if we're believing what the reenactment tells us, it happened right in front of all these people who did nothing to stop it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Who were pissed they were at work the day after Thanksgiving.
Who were totally pissed they were at work and they were like, this can't be real, so I'm going to think it is. And also I'm like, where's the composite? You guys saw their faces.
Right.
And we'll get to those.
Right, we will.
Yeah.
So the case goes cold, and it is officially closed in 1987. They just say, cost of doing business. We're never going to find this, whatever.
Yeah.
But we're told that it wasn't closed.
Yeah,
it was just kind of put on a shelf.
We're not going to never look at this again, but we're not going to actively pursue this.
Yeah. It wasn't a goodbye. It was a see you later.
It was a see you later. Have you heard that if you get off a plane and the flight attendant says see you later, it means they want to have sex with you?
What?
I just heard that on TikTok. And so now I clock it every time. It happened to me last week. Somebody said see you later instead of goodbye.
What?
I don't know if it's true or not, but I saw a flight attendant talking about it on TikTok.
So what are you supposed to do?
Nothing. You're just supposed to know. Like, and now Steve and I, it's a competition every time we get off a plane. Because, it's all the flight attendants are gay men.
Yes.
So it's
For the
always
most
like,
part, yeah.
I'm like, did you get to see you later? He's like, I got to see you later. I'm like, of course you did. I know. He got to see you later last week. I got to see you later a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
I know. I'm just letting you know.
Look.
I'm in high demand up in the air.
High demand.
You know what I mean?
Mile High Club.
So we jumped to 2017 because we just ended with them like kind of closing the case. Now in 2017, when the painting is found, we're with David from the antique store, and David wants to do the right thing. Now that he knows where this painting is from, he calls the museum right away.
And I'm trying to tell her, I said, look, I'm not crazy. I purchased this estate, and this painting was in it. And I said, it's an exact match.
Me and my coworker just look at each other and our eyes get really big, and she lunges forward and says, are we going to remember this moment for the rest of our lives?
Am I going to remember this moment for the rest of my life? Like,
right.
is this it?
Could
this
this
it?
possibly be real? Because like he's texting her pictures of it. She's like, it looks like it could be. And then the cops are like, you may have no more communication.
Yeah, like stop talking about it. No side texts.
No.
I'm not into that. I'm like, what?
But then, like, they cease communication with David, who has the painting. Like, the cops never call him. The museum stops calling him back. David takes the painting home, hides it behind the couch, and gets a bunch of guns. And I was like, this is the only time I'm going to allow the guns.
Because the word is out.
Yes.
People are going into the store, and they're like, can we see De Kooning? And they're worried that someone's going to steal it.
Yes, or someone's going to kill them for it. It's worth $160 million.
So that's why
he gets
they
the
do
guns.
that.
Yeah.
So Antiques Dave gets a call from an intellectual properties attorney. He's like, hey, Dave, you stupid idiot.
Yeah.
You should be rethinking this because you're leaving a lot of money on the table.
He's like, this could be worth millions. This is like technically legally yours. You bought it. Like, you could be making millions of dollars. And David says, I took a minute to scream at the man.
Yep.
Then I called the museum back and I was like, girl, I am getting calls from lawyers telling me that I should be ripping you off, telling you that I could be making millions of dollars. I don't want to do that. I want to do the right thing, but no one is calling me back.
And everyone is crying because they thought it was gone forever.
No, this brought tears to my eyes because we actually hear the message that David left for the museum. He's like, you gotta call me. Like, I could be killed for this thing. I'm trying to do the right thing here. I do not want to do the wrong thing.
Also, get it away from me because I could be killed.
Because I could be killed for this thing.
Like, just get it back where it belongs, please.
I know. And so then we see the moment of reunification where it's like David and the cops and the museum, and they're all like in a room, like looking at the painting. They're crying. I'm crying. Like, I really found this to be very moving. And I thought, like,
Am I a heartless monster?
No.
I cry at
that is up for the internet to decide.
everything.
Yeah.
Not this.
No, you are not a heartless monster. I love that David was so committed to doing the right thing.
I think I love seeing people just unabashedly do the right thing.
Because David...
And it meant so much to these people. Like, this woman, like,
I know.
Like, that is amazing, but did it move me to tears? It did not.
I know.
Which is rare.
I know. You're not heartless.
That never happens.
I just, like, love these straight guys because, like, the other business partner is, like...
People ask us all the time how you could just do it so easily, and it's like, how could you not?
How could you not? And
know,
that should be the question. How could you not do it so easily?
How could you not?
How could you not do it?
And if you're not asking that question, like, what is wrong with you?
And there's no way you're going to appreciate it as much as these museum people.
Of
like,
course.
They deserve it.
It's just magical to see how much they wanted to do the right thing. Like, I just thought it was beautiful.
No, I am going to cry.
Okay. Oh,
because it is really nice.
I mean, you're not
that
feeling
never
good.
happens.
I know.
People never do the right thing in these movies.
Straight white men.
documentaries.
Well done, boys.
So now it needs to go get fixed up and restored. While that's all happening, we learn about the handyman.
But we don't know why we're learning about the handyman.
Right.
We learn about these two people that we've never heard of. Their names are Ken and Judy.
Well, he's writing the stories.
So this is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Like, I don't think the documentary told us that at this point.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I'll tell you guys.
Why don't we tell the listeners?
Yeah.
Tell them what's going on.
So Jerry, the owner of the house and the guy who probably stole the painting.
Yeah, who's dead now, and that's why we found the painting.
Right. He was writing all these stories. He, like, fancied himself an artist, right?
Yes.
So one of the stories is about Ken and Judy.
Yes.
And Dennis from Always Sunny is narrating it. And everyone is pretty sure that the stories that we hear that he wrote are all based in reality.
So, like, the guy that we think is the art thief is also a writer. And we think what he's doing is that he's writing, quote, fictional stories that is actually telling of, like, the crimes he's committed in his life.
Right. So here's the story. Ken and Judy, Jerry and Rita.
Yeah.
built their home in rural New Mexico.
Yeah.
Ken is looking for the best hands in town to help him out.
Yeah.
So someone immediately tells him about a, quote, Mexican laborer who can help Ken rebuild whatever he's building.
Just help him, like, build his house or whatever.
His name is he's Jose. They call him the handyman. He's an excellent worker, honest. The price is right, very affordable.
He's also gorgeous.
He's also incredibly handsome, which is actually that actually matters. Like that's an important part of the story.
Yes.
We will get back to all of this.
Yeah. So like we're just meeting Ken and Judy, who are like the alter egos of Jerry and Rita, and Jerry is writing these stories. So to put a pen
about Jose the hot handyman.
Right. Put a pin in this story. We will come back to it.
Right now we're meeting Rita Alter's nephew, who's Ron.
Yeah. So remember, Jerry and Rita are the art thieves, we think, and Ron is their nephew, and he's with us a lot because Ron is going to tell us about Aunt Rita and Uncle Jerry. And this is just the beginning of everybody who knew them. Remember, we think they're the art thieves. We think they're the bad guys, but nobody in their life knew that. And all of the people like Ron, the nephew, and all their neighbors and friends just think they're amazing. They think they're really nice, sweet teachers who like moved to New Mexico in their 40s to kind of like retire and take it easy. And everybody really liked them.
And they were soulmates. They loved their life they were living. They were always documenting it in letters and journals, photos. I'm like, oh my God, the endless slideshows.
Well, and that's the thing, because now we learn about their traveling. So they got married in 1957. Their last trip together was in 2010, and they traveled like 3 or 4 times a year, every single year in there. And like they described the travel as their life accomplishment. That's what they did with their lives.
And they weren't just like chilling.
Oh my God, every trip was like truly an adventure.
Yeah, they didn't travel in luxury.
No.
They were much more adventurous. You know, if they would go to Tahiti, they would go to Tahiti for a month and live in a hut on the beach.
Right.
They were having real adventures in really exotic, cool places.
They're not going to like the Four Seasons in Cabo. They're like going to like really far-flung countries and like trying to experience the culture. We'll learn more about that later. But they're like, these are really lavish trips. They would go for a month to Morocco.
Right.
They would go, they would go for a really long extended periods of time.
And they were always sending postcards to people, and they always brought back presents and artifacts. And I'm like, brought back?
No, but
or stole?
Because remember, like we'll learn more about this later, but when they moved to New Mexico, they were in their 40s and Rita was the only one working. Like Jerry retired. How are they having the money for all these like lavish, amazing trips?
Month-long adventures.
Yeah. And we learned, so Jerry passed away in 2010 when he was 81 years old. And the family learns quickly that Rita has Alzheimer's. So Ron, the nephew that we just met, who like loved his aunt and uncle, he becomes the executor of the estate because Jerry and Rita, the main players in this story, they have 2 kids, but both of the kids have some sort of issues. We don't ever meet the kids. We don't ever really learn what the issues are.
Yeah.
But Ron is put in place to sort of like put together the estate so there'll be something there for the adult children.
And he's here with his son, Isaac.
Ron is here with his son, Isaac.
Yeah. And so he's like, again, the house was like a museum, but there was always like a lot of mystery to it. Like they didn't know how they got all the artifacts 100%. There was a lot of mystery to this lavish lifestyle.
And like as Ron is like as now the executor, he's got to decide if any of this is worth anything because he's got to figure out what he can get for it to amass as much money as he can to give to the kids.
Now he says that he sent photos of everything, including the De Kooning painting.
Yeah.
I sent it to the Met, MoMA, the Smithsonian, universities in New Mexico. I got no offers, either, for payment or for a donation.
And they were brushed off. And I'm like, a whole bunch of people just got fired.
I mean, it's kind of unbelievable that he sent a picture of this De Kooning. You would think that, maybe it just went to an inbox and nobody looked at it. But you would think that the curators of these museums would know that's the missing De Kooning. You know what I mean?
I would think that in the art world,
it's at least worth a phone call. Like,
maybe?
What we have to remember is that Jerry and Rita's family had no reason to believe that they had anything of any exceptional value because they weren't people with money, right?
And that's how our antique guys and the appraisers got involved because everyone all the museums told them there's nothing really of value here.
Right, because when the uber rich people die, like when the Vanderbilts die, like the Met and the MoMA show up at their house being like, can we acquire your art for our collection?
Sure,
you know what I mean?
right.
But there's no reason they would do that for Jerry and Rita because they've never heard of them because they're not famous, wealthy people.
Right.
And
now we get a montage of everyone saying how ugly the painting is.
I know. I love it. I think it's so beautiful.
It's cool. Look, art is subjective.
Yes,
we are seeing that at work here.
People hate our podcast. Some people, you know what I mean?
People hate me. I'm not for everybody. I get it. I totally get it. That's perfectly fine. The nephew compares it to paintings that animals make, and I'm I think those are the coolest. Like, I want one.
I was watching the apes make the painting. I got on TikTok because I had to see it.
It's amazing.
It's really cool.
And a lot of animal conservation places or zoos, like the good kinds, will that's how they raise a lot of their money.
Oh, really?
It'll be just buy something that the porcupine painted.
No
and I'm like,
way.
What?
Really?
And you can't like see it. It's just like, oh, this is a thing. And I'm like, I want a painting by an animal so bad. I'm just going to get, because then you can.
That's amazing.
Then you like donate to the organization.
Totally,
so it's like kind of everybody wins.
Yeah.
I really want one.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So anyway, that's a little detour.
So when they're not getting any response from the Met or the MoMA or whatever, this is when they sell the rest of the stuff to that antique store, right?
Yeah.
And then through the process of like the antique store determining that it's a De Kooning, all of a sudden Ron gets a call from the FBI.
Right.
She said, "You're not in trouble in any way. We just need some information." And then she proceeded to explain what was found in my aunt and uncle's possessions.
I'm a little bit in trouble. At the FBI, I'm a little bit in trouble. I exist feeling like I'm always a little bit in trouble.
Me too. That's how I live.
So
I was that kid in class that was like, everyone stop talking, the teacher's gonna yell. Like, I was that kid.
Oh my God.
I know. Pins and needles.
I was the one talking.
I know. Like, Jillian, please, they're gonna yell. Please stop. Oh my God.
We're looking through these like family photos.
Yeah.
And what we're piecing together is that the photographs show that the Alters were in Arizona at the time of the theft.
So this is kind of a big deal. So let's slow down on this a little bit.
Because it's a big family Thanksgiving and the photo is labeled.
Right. So because Rita and Jerry's estate was just sold, included in the estate was all of their pictures throughout time. So Ron, the nephew, who is the one that is the executor of the estate, he is saying, all right, the FBI just called me. They want to know how we came into the possession of this painting that was stolen from a museum in Arizona in 1985. Like, why would my family have that? Well, he finds this picture from Thanksgiving 1985 in Tucson, Arizona, with Jerry and Rita in the photo. So they were in Tucson, Arizona in 1985. Remember, the painting is stolen the day after Thanksgiving.
Right.
So he now puts them in Arizona at the time that the painting was stolen, in the same year that the painting was stolen. And not only that, he remembers, and it's written in a journal, because Rita kept a journal of like all of the traveling that she did, that the day after Thanksgiving, 1985, Jerry and Rita are off the grid. They say they went for a really long hike. They woke up early in the morning. Mm-hmm. They disappeared for the entire day, telling everybody they were on a hike, and then they were back in the evening. And that is the exact time and location that the painting was stolen.
And normally you'd think
like they did it.
But they 100% did it.
Yeah.
And normally you'd think, hey, dummies, can you just write hike on the day?
Yeah.
And having it empty is just so glaring.
Yeah. Because the other thing about this travel journal,
what was kind of interesting about them is they noted every time they left Cliff, every time they went anywhere for more than a day, they wrote it down. Thanksgiving, 1985, was left completely blank, which we found fascinating. And then, then we're right back into taking notes again, right after.
But the weekend that the painting was stolen, when we know they were in Tucson for Thanksgiving, which is right near where the painting was stolen, she left it completely blank.
It's like she didn't want anyone
to
know that she was in Arizona.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So also the description of their car matches the red car that the people at the museum told the cops about.
The people at the museum described the getaway car as rust-colored, and we know that they drove a red car. It was also a sports car, and we know that Rita and Jerry drove a sports car.
And the descriptions of Rita and Jerry are accurate, down to Rita's red coat.
Yeah, you mean like the descriptions of the thieves is accurate.
Of the thieves.
Because
yes.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying.
Yes.
The woman thief is described as wearing, and there's a drawing of this red coat that the thief woman was wearing, and there's a picture of Rita in Arizona the weekend the painting was stolen wearing the exact red coat.
Standing next to the red car.
Standing right next to the red car.
So this is all great.
Like, this is why I love art heist documentaries, because it's like, oh my God, we'll never know for sure, but like putting the pieces together is the best.
Now, I'm like, I know for sure. Because,
yeah.
But the FBI's like, this doesn't actually prove anything, right?
Yes.
But now we're back to like Jerry's writing and his books and his short stories.
The whole thing about Jerry, who we think is the art thief, is that he was also a writer, and he was writing a book, like a fiction book called The Cup and the Lip, where we now think he was writing a fictionalized version of all the crimes that he and Rita were committing.
Right, so it's like a book of short stories. It's called Exotic Tales, and there are like exotic photos from all their trips on the cover.
And the thing that's wild is that he's like calling around to his entire family. He wants everybody to have a copy. He wants everyone to, because remember, criminals always need to take credit for their work. They want
everyone to know.
This is what I was saying. Like, how were they able to sit on this for all these years? You know what I mean? But they didn't. They wrote fictionalized stories about it.
Yeah. And it is essentially the story allegedly, my opinion, of how they stole this painting.
Yes.
It's George and Susie, not Jerry and Rita.
Yeah.
But then there's another one called The Eye of the Jaguar.
Yes.
The story of Rita or Susie or whoever her name is here and her niece stealing this like enormous emerald from a museum.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, it's 120 carats.
Right.
We have a painting stealing story.
Yeah.
And now we have this. I'm like, is anyone missing a 120 carat emerald?
I know.
Or jewel of some kind?
I know,
because
it's true.
It feels like, in my opinion, that story is a confession of them stealing the painting.
Yeah.
So what is this about?
Exactly.
What did they steal in this story?
The other thing that we learn here is that like a travel agent who like learned about the painting after the fact, a travel agent who worked with Jerry and Rita, because remember they were traveling to all these different countries all the time. This travel agent is like,
I'm sure they did it. And we're like, why are you sure? And she said, because they were adrenaline junkies. They would book a flight into a country and they would make arrangements for somebody to smuggle them into a country that they weren't allowed to go into. This little old man and this little old lady were adrenaline junkies.
They were adrenaline junkies. So, like, you know, we see all these artifacts in their house, like the stealings of the paintings and all of these other things. Like, they had to do this because they were addicted to it.
They were addicted to
it.
Like,
nobody in their lives actually knew them.
Right.
You know?
At all.
Yeah.
So we meet Lieutenant Mike Burns, and he says, he's like, you know, reading these stories in the context of this book, and he's like, and all the work I've done on the case, he goes, this is about as consistent as a New York hot dog on a hot summer day. I'm like, sir, we are in the middle of a month-long heat wave in New York City right now, and the last thing I want is a hot dog.
I know.
It's too hot.
I know.
It's like on a New York City hot dog on a hot summer day. I'm like, what is that trope?
I gotta tell you, like, hot dogs were ruined for me from what was the one that we did on Patreon where they ate nothing but hot dogs for a year?
Oh, Twin Flames.
Yeah. It was like hot dogs were ruined for me right after that.
Did you hear that the hot dog eating guy got kicked out of the hot dog thing?
Because he's a vegan?
He does impossible. He like ate an impossible hot dog.
And I don't understand that. It doesn't make any sense.
I think it's really dumb all around. I think the hot dog eating contest is absurd.
I can't watch it. It's disgusting, but it's also like we're just going to guzzle down all this food where people are starving all over the world.
On July 4th.
It's
also,
the worst.
it's another hot day.
Like, what
the
are we
last
doing?
thing I want to do is eat a fucking hot dog. Am I crazy? Anyway, so we're at the Getty Museum in Los Angeles, and they're working on restoring this painting.
Yeah, and like this art restoration part is really kind of amazing because and like this was really hard for me to watch too because they're talking about how the painting was really damaged when they cut it out of the frame.
Like and it's real jagged edges.
Yes.
Like it was hastily cut out.
Because two things happened. Like number one, they cut it out of the frame. So when they stapled it onto a new stretcher, like basically like the new frame.
The painting was then stapled to that strainer, and the staples went through what should have been the front of the painting. And that's one of the most difficult issues that we face. And once that was done, someone chose to varnish the painting.
They were stapling what was meant to be the front of the painting.
They ruined it by stapling it.
They ruined it. But they also, when they cut it out and then they rolled it up, like all the this painting's like 75 years old.
Yeah.
All the paint chipped. And so like we meet this woman who's like painstakingly moving the paint chips back to the places where they're supposed to go. It's incredible.
Oh, and then they put varnish all over it.
Yeah, the thieves put varnish all over it. Yeah,
completely. Yeah. That's the other thing. It's like the experts are saying these people had a little bit of an art background.
Yes.
Because what they did is kind of like a crude version of what a professional would do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, except for the staples, I think.
Yeah.
But like they did their own retouches. But I'm like, who cares? It's their painting now.
Right.
They weren't gonna sell it.
Right.
And I'm like, I feel like I should be outraged by this, but it's like it's so weird. Why mess with it?
I know.
If you're gonna just like hide it away in a corner in your bedroom.
It feels like the varnish, they just put a coat of like clear varnish on it to like keep
Spruce it up or something.
Well, or just to keep it from deteriorating. Like maybe they saw the paint flakes falling off and they were trying to keep that from like happening.
Don't shove it down your pants and run out of a museum with it if you want it to be perfect.
They were hanging it like behind a door and they put like a screw in the wall to keep the doorknob from smashing into this $160 million priceless work of art.
Well, we learned, this is actually a good segue because we learned that Jerry was a know-it-all who actually didn't know shit.
Yeah.
So the house,
worst kind of person to get stuck next to at like a dinner party.
Absolutely insufferable.
Yeah.
But the house he built is crooked. Like the current owners say that things are jerry-rigged. He'd like argue with a brain surgeon.
Yes.
Jerry always knew better. And I'm like, can you imagine the mansplaining?
I cannot imagine.
Like, you imagine that Thanksgiving dinner?
Yeah.
Like, give me a politics conversation any day
of the
over
week.
that mansplaining idiot. But like, Jerry had a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah.
Like he never thought he was treated well. Like he never got the promotions that he wanted. And he was writing, we know this because he wrote all about it in his stories.
Right.
And remember, like he was an artist, right?
He was
like,
a painter. He made those 75 horrendous paintings.
And he 100% thought he knew best and thought that like his retouches were making this priceless art better.
Yeah,
in some way, right?
Totally.
So he would write stories about being a painter and being the successful painter and selling his work for $50,000 each. And like that never really happened. So he's not only writing stories or confessions or embellishments or whatever, but he's also writing about this life not lived that he really wanted.
And they're saying that that's why it makes sense that he would razor this painting out of its frame.
That's saying that, well, secretly, actually, I'm as good as any of you. I can kill you. I can steal you. I can dominate you.
I could see my uncle thinking, if I can't be famous, at least I could be infamous.
I never got to be the great painter, so I'm going to steal this great work of art. Yeah, I'm going to take it just for me, just because I can,
right.
You know?
And because, like, if I can't have the success, then he has to ruin someone else's good time.
Exactly.
So let's go back to the handyman, the very capable and extremely handsome guy named Jose. So the story goes that while Jerry is off pursuing his writing career, his wife is sleeping with the hot handyman, Jose.
This is in the fictionalized version that he wrote, where it's like, is he confessing to crimes in these fictionalized stories?
What's going on?
Yeah.
Like, so one day the husband puts it all together and he sees his wife like making eyes at the handyman.
Yeah,
and like the bed is all messed up, right? And so Jerry, or whoever's name it is in the story, kills this handyman named Jose.
Hits him over the head with a sledgehammer.
They sort of like sprinkle that in. And I'm like, can we talk about the possible murder a little bit more? No, we have to talk more about all the slights in life.
But we
Jerry.
will get back to this murder, because it is kind of like, wait, we know he stole this painting and then he wrote about it in his fictionalized book. But then in the fictionalized book, he writes about killing this man. So is that real? Did
is that
happen?
Part of it?
So we're going to come back to that story in a minute. But they're saying that like another justification as to why maybe Rita and Jerry stole this painting is the idea that like they were in New York at about the right time that De Kooning was there. So maybe they crossed paths with him.
And then, of course, then you start hearing about how De Kooning was a womanizer and slept with his models and things like that. And so then we thought, well, maybe that was part of this. Maybe Rita was the model for it.
Now, the De Kooning experts say no. De Kooning always had particular women in mind to model for his painting, so it would not have been Rita, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that they would have met. And it's possibly even likely that Rita would have met De Kooning one night at the Cedar Tavern, which was this bar where all the painters hung out. I actually worked at the Cedar Tavern.
God.
I was a bartender at the Cedar Tavern for like a month in my like young years in New York.
Wow.
It's still there. Like Jackson Pollock used to hang out there. De Kooning hung out there. All the American painters hung out there. But they're saying it is possible that they actually met at this bar and like maybe they did have an affair and she was in love with him and then felt wronged by him.
Right.
Because Jerry and Rita also met at about the same time as this painting was made in 1955.
Right.
So maybe the idea was like De Kooning wronged them in some way and now they're going to go steal this like priceless work of art that he created.
Right. And also it becomes very personal for Jerry because like Jerry should have had a better life. Jerry should have been an artist. And like if you think about it, they didn't sell the painting. They hid it for decades. Jerry did his own retouches on it. So it's kind of like it was a symbol of this resentment and anger and he like stole this thing, this De Kooning thing. Like maybe it was a really specific personal thing.
My take on that is I think they made a mistake. I think they had probably spent their lives stealing smaller, less valuable things that nobody would miss or look for. Then they steal this super famous, expensive painting and all of a sudden they can't sell it. Like I think it was just like they were like, fuck, we thought we could sell this for $1 million, but now it's so famous and it's worth $160 million and we can't do anything with it.
But just get rid of it then. If it's so, you know, like,
I guess so, because it is kind of like they just put it on their wall, like, and they in kind of near, like they were in New Mexico, not that far from Arizona, where the painting was stolen. Anybody could have seen it and recognized it,
right?
You know,
then like burn it or something. I know that's sad, but I'm just saying, like, if you're so scared, I don't agree with it.
Off your tongue like a psychopath.
But I'm just saying, like, why keep it?
Yeah, I know.
If you're so scared of the eyes on it, just like destroy it and forget it never happened and steal something else.
Maybe they take it off the wall when people come over. Like we don't know. You know what I mean? Like
no idea.
Yeah, but it is endlessly fascinating to think of the possibilities.
It's so weird.
I know.
Speaking of weird, here's a story about Rita that we learn. Someone came, remember our antique guys, the guys who were like appraising the house and all the artifacts?
Yeah.
Someone came into the store and told these guys, let me tell you something about Rita.
This is wild.
I used to think Rita was the best. I
Yeah.
used to think she was so amazing and so nice. But then one day she tells me this story. Apparently Rita told this person.
They had gone into somewhere deep into the country, into the jungle or wherever it was they were going. They stood on a hillside and these two tribes were battling. They actually killed each other. And she said, Rita is sitting here telling me this story of watching people being killed like they'd gone to Disneyland.
As Rita is telling this person, she's like giddy about it.
Yes.
And like the person says to our antique friends, I think she's a horrible person.
Yes.
Like she saw something in Rita that she'd never seen before.
Yeah.
Just her excitement over this truly horrifying event.
And as though it was done for her entertainment. You know what I mean?
And so now, though, as the antique guys are telling the story, the person behind the camera is like, you know that story is in one of his books, right?
Right.
And they're like, what?
Yeah.
Because they use their real names this time. And there are photos.
Yes.
So that's more of like the stories that he's writing about are all based in reality.
Yes.
Because the story Rita told was a story in that book.
Right. So that goes back to the murder story. Like if every other story in this book is based on something they actually did, they probably actually did kill the gardener.
Or stealing that jewel. Like
Yes.
where's that? Like what's
Exactly.
that in reference to?
Yep.
Now everyone is like, does the FBI know about this? Like they should know about this. The FBI did not read this book. They found it boring and poorly written. Didn't keep their attention. People were told to read it. They didn't read it.
Yeah.
No one cares about the case.
No, because once again, the De Kooning painting is the only thing that like anybody cares about because it's worth $160 million, but their house is full of other artifacts. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Other probably stolen artifacts.
But they're saying like the FBI searched for that. Like searched the house for stolen artifacts and like they were like, we looked in the walls. Like there was nothing else that was reported missing.
And that's what they're saying. The FBI is saying like just because we are able to clear these things doesn't mean they weren't stolen. It just means they weren't reported. Like it is possible that they went to smaller museums and stole things that wouldn't be missed. You know what I mean? Things that were worth a lot of money but wouldn't necessarily be missed.
Well, for example, one of these stolen art pieces was donated after they die. Like the family was like giving stuff away, basically. And the thing is a Frederick Remington bronze.
Yeah, no, I didn't know anything about this, but
I didn't know this
he's
guy.
like a famous sculptor from the Southwest. I looked him up a little bit.
Yeah.
Like they're donating this to a thrift store, and the woman who owns the thrift store is like, whoa, we can't take that.
Yeah.
That's worth thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah. And Sotheby's is like, no, this is real.
Yes.
Like they have all of these, like another famous painting by J.H. Sharp, like one of the most famous Western artists, and like more bronze statues and all this stuff. And Sotheby's is like, no, girl, like this is all real.
Because the important thing to note here is
they had authentic materials, but they told everybody they were reproductions.
I think it was a safety thing.
Yeah.
You know,
they're not wanting to draw attention to art, I guess.
You know, living in Cliff, if anybody knew that you had a Remington, everybody would know you had a Remington.
they loved sculptures like this. We loved this guy's work, but like obviously we can't afford the real thing, so we got reproductions.
Right.
So when Ron is like, wait a second, you're saying Sotheby's authenticated it?
The nephew is asking.
Yeah, the one who's like trying to sell the stuff for the kids. Like we learn all in all, like the stuff that was donated to this thrift store, Sotheby's sold at auction for like $160,000.
Yeah. But also, I'm confused about the nephew because I'm like, didn't you call Sotheby's already? Because he was like, I already asked Sotheby's.
Sotheby's said no, like Sotheby's wouldn't take the stuff.
But now they're saying it's real.
Well, because I think what happened was like the nephew called and was like, hey, I've got this stuff. Do you want to look at it? And Sotheby's was like, no. And it was actually the son of the thrift store owner who recognized what it actually was and called Sotheby's and was like, no, this is real. Like you want to see this.
Yeah.
So they were able to persuade them. There's another story of like a missing $1 million Navajo rug that was stolen from a museum not far away in Arizona. We know that they were also in Arizona at the time. Like they do another thing where they track their travel based on her journal. And we see that like they flew into Tucson again and they would have been driving right past this museum to go home on the day that this $1 million Navajo rug was stolen.
It was the chief's blanket. It was the chief's blanket in 1989.
Right.
Which
so
is
it's like totally their MO. And like nobody in the family has seen it and they can't find it. But this is when it leads to the question of like, wait a second.
What if they went on their trips to sell the stuff that they stole in the U.S.?
Yeah, nobody'd think any different of it.
There's no TSA back then.
it would make sense that we don't have this Navajo blanket because it was, they stole it from this museum and then they sold it on one of their trips.
Right. And like the journals say, like prove that they were in Arizona at this time. They actually had to drive by the museum to visit their family.
Literally drove, like we see the map. They drive right past this museum. They definitely did it.
Yeah.
They definitely stole this rock.
Because they're documenting absolutely everything they do except on the dates of the thefts.
Yeah, which is why, like, the thing that we have to bear in mind now is that, like, the artifacts that they have in their home might actually be things that they purchased, which is why the FBI was able to clear them, because these things weren't stolen.
Right.
But they only had the money to buy these things because they were stealing other things and then selling them.
Right.
And that's why the things that the FBI wouldn't have been able to clear weren't in their house because they actually sold those things.
God.
You know what I mean?
This is exhausting.
It's exhausting, but it's also, like, it's evilly brilliant.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And they'd also, like, try not to brag about money. They lived in this, like, pretty modest house.
So this is the thing that just, I don't know how they did this. If they really are, like, the art ring thieves that it looks like they are, where they're stealing $1 million rugs and then selling them and then, like, they have a cache of money somewhere.
Right.
They've got all this money. They've got a $160 million art piece on their wall, but they're living like paupers.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Because, but this is all part of it. Like, I think this is a lie too, or it is a lie, because they would have like all this old furniture, but they would tell people.
When I would visit there, they didn't want anything other than liquids going down their toilet. Number twos, they just said, don't flush, we'll take care of it. I think they would wrap it up, probably put it outside, and then they would take the trash to the city dump.
Leave the poop in the toilet and we will take care of it.
Because
I was like, is this a ploy to make people never come visit them? Yeah, honestly.
Done.
Would you ever?
No.
Would you ever go to a house of somebody's like, if you have to poop, leave it in the toilet and we'll handle it?
No.
I've said poop 3 times in the last minute.
It's weird.
4 times now.
Also, am I pooping at someone else's house? Probably not.
What if you had to? You know what I mean? If you're staying the weekend?
In an emergency, yeah.
I know.
But the reason they're telling people...
We are so ashamed of our bowel movements as a culture. Like, we are so ashamed.
Isn't there that book, like, everybody poops?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
you know what else? Stay ashamed. You know what I mean? I want you to love everything else about your body. Hate your poops.
Just
hate them.
I wish we could just let go of it.
I know, but we never will.
I wish I could be one of those people who just doesn't give a shit.
Literally.
Literally?
You know
oh
what I mean?
God, wow. Could never be me.
Just as a culture, we hate what our bodies do to themselves.
Yeah.
We hate it.
Women especially.
I know, please.
Hate it.
I know.
Hate my body most of the time. It's so mean to me.
It's horrible.
So, but here's why they're saying that. Because they claim they didn't have the money to replace their septic tank.
Right.
And the septic tank is really important because in the story, the handyman...
Where they murder the gardener.
The body in the story is put inside the septic tank.
Yeah. And so, like, the nephew, Ron, now he was tasked with handling the family's affairs, right? So when, like, the caretakers of the house are now like, Ron, girl, you got to do something about the septic tank. It stinks. Like, we got to be able to poop inside. And so Ron is like, fine, I will have the septic tank replaced. And we're going to learn when Rita was still alive.
When I talked to my aunt about the septic tank, she was dead set against having it done. She got very upset about it, started making some excuses.
She fought him on this tooth and nail. She did not want him replacing the septic tank. But he's like, we can't not replace the septic tank. And we meet the company who comes out to replace the septic tank. And they're saying, like, this septic tank was 40 years old. It had never been emptied. It was full to the brim, he says.
Solid waste, top to bottom.
40 years.
Is so fucking gross.
He says it's twice the repair age. So you're supposed to replace your septic tank every 20 years. This thing was 40 years old and had never even been emptied.
So this guy, this technician who like went through the tank is like, yeah, it's very unlikely that there was anything nefarious in there. And I'm like, I don't know about that. A body was in there, potentially, maybe, allegedly. The theory is a body was in there for decades. Plus it was backed up for decades. All this deterioration. And then you cleaned it without looking. Like, I think it's very possible that poor man's body was decomposing for years. And no one had any idea because Jose was undocumented.
Right.
So this is
Jose in the fictional story was undocumented.
Right.
And And we do know that Jerry was known to hire undocumented workers to come do this kind of labor.
Right.
And we also know, this is in the documentary, I'm not just making this up, that many undocumented workers would go missing and the families would call and be like, I'm not saying Jerry did this to a lot of people, but in general, like when undocumented workers would go missing, nobody looked for them. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like it would be an easy thing for Jerry to have been able to do and get away with. And this technician changes his tune when they give him the story to read, because he's like, now wait a second. The description of this septic tank.
The detail of that was surprising because 95% of the customers I talked to think that the tank is full. But he described that the tank level was where it should be. That was surprising. That's the diameter of lid and what he would have been looking at when he was describing putting the body in the tank.
Wait, this description is too good.
It's too good.
You know?
Now the cops are at the house and they're going to look in the septic tank.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and do all this testing. And I'm like, now?
Because the septic tank is a brand new septic tank. And they bring this guy, we're like at the end, fam. They bring this guy with like ground penetrating radar to sort of like go over the ground and see if there's any anomalies. And I'm like, but why are you doing that? Like, we know that in the story, he put him in the septic tank. He didn't like bury him next to the septic tank.
The old septic tank that has since been replaced.
Gone. Yeah.
And that was deteriorating over 40 years.
Right.
So there's no evidence that there's a body underground on the property. Right. And then the cop gets a call about a homicide and that's it, and he leaves. Which I understand. I totally get it. But it's like, why are we even here? You know you're not going to find anything.
I know.
Like, I believe that they killed that poor guy and left his body to decompose over 40 years. And of course there's nothing there anymore.
Of course not. And nobody ever looked for him back at the time.
Would bones decompose? Like,
but it doesn't matter because nobody looked.
It doesn't matter.
They got rid of the septic tank, like whole cloth. They never opened it.
They never opened it. Because it was disgusting, filled with solid waste. Of course, they're not going to go through
40 years.
They're not going to go through it. There's no reason to go through it.
Fam, if people can't poop at your house, don't have them over. Do you know what I mean?
But that's why.
I know. I know. I know.
It was all a lie.
Yeah.
So it kind of ends, and I'm just like, all right, so these people kind of sucked. Like, Jerry was a nightmare. Rita enabled him. Jerry is probably, in my opinion, a fucking murderer.
Yeah, they definitely were. Like,
Rita liked watching people die for sport? Like, what is going on? Who are these people? These people suck.
And like, but everybody in their life like loved them. Like everybody in their life thought they were like these great people.
Usually the people who suck the most are really good at tricking people into liking them.
Totally. And
Charles Manson
like,
had fan mail in prison. Give me a break.
I know. And they're like, it really was weird that like these people on this one salary could afford to take these month-long vacations 3 times a year. Like they're trafficking art through like the Middle East or whatever.
To watch people fight to the death.
But it ends with the guys at the antique store because they get all these letters from people saying like,
in this day and age when greed, dishonesty, and lack of integrity are commonplace, you three wonderful people are a beacon of hope for this world.
You guys are amazing and you did the right thing and we love you so much. And as a gift to the antique store, the museum gives them the empty frame. Because now that the painting's been returned, they took the empty frame down and they gave it to the antique store guys and they're crying as they put it up.
Yeah, it's
I
very
love it.
Sweet.
Yeah.
They're good guys. They did the right thing here.
It never happens.
Lesson
but
learned.
Did. Yeah.
Do the right thing, goddammit.
Merch! Oh, girl, we did, what's it called?
The Thief Collector.
I really was interested. I love this kind of shit.
Yeah, you love it.
I know, you hate it so much.
I almost want to say, well, at least nobody died, but that's wrong.
I know.
Like, this is just, no matter what, we can't escape horrifying.
No, it's true.
People are just, like, terrible.
I know.
Even your quirky, weird aunt with the cool artifacts.
It's true. You're right. If you have a quirky, weird aunt with weird artifacts, ask some questions. Ask questions.
And usually, I mean, for the most part, they're going to have cool stories. But Rita and Jerry, not a fan.
Can't trust them as far as you
I'm
throw
going to
them.
go on the record. Don't like them.
Fam, join the Patreon if you want more Jillian and me. It's over 450 full ad-free bonus episodes right now. We're wrapping up the Jinx Part 2. We did The Cult of Mother God.
Yep, we did Twin Flames.
Quiet on Set.
We're doing Ashley Madison next.
Everything going back to like Serial Season 1 and The Staircase and The Jinx and like all the big cases. We've covered them all. Go check it. Patreon.com/TrueCrimeObsessed. Go to the website. Click on the Patreon link.
Yep.
What are we doing next, girl?
Oof. Sins of the Parents, the Crumbly trials. Have you heard about this?
That?
It's about the prosecution of the parents for their role in a school shooting and murders committed by their son.
Yes.
It's the first time the parents have been held.
I followed that story.
It is wild. It is heartbreaking, but why? Like, you're hearing and seeing things that were said, and it's like these parents out to lunch is an understatement.
I know. Like,
they enabled. They I'm sorry. Like, what? We'll get into
They
their.
bought him the gun.
They bought him the gun.
Yeah.
They knew he was having mental health struggles. It's
the day of the
mess.
shooting, they were called to the school, and they basically were like, "He's fine. We're going home. We're leaving him here.
We're leaving him here."
Yeah.
It's a truly wild story and a lot of opinions. I think.
All right.
So we'll see you when we see you.
All right, fam. Stay tuned for the trailer for that, and then our funny and hilarious outtakes. Hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
We love you, fam.
We love you.
All right, bye.
Flush those toilets. Love you.
Bye. Flush them. Oh my God. Bye.
It's a groundbreaking case that's resulted in 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter charges against both James and Jennifer Crumbly.
Authorities say the shooter used a handgun his father had bought just days earlier.
The first parents in America to be charged in a school shooting.
Parents of the shooter at Oxford High School, who killed 4 students and wounded others in November 2021.
There are very rare circumstances where gross negligence rises to the level where you can be charged with a serious crime. This is one of them.
Crumbly's defense has said a conviction would set a dangerous precedent for unwitting parents.
This case is very different. This is about parents who largely ignored their son, neglected his cries for help, and then bought him a gun.
It really was just common sense. You don't get to walk away from that. You just don't. That's a criminal act.
Oh my God, are you okay?
It went down the wrong way.
Are you
What if this
okay?
is just like solid vodka? You know what I mean? No.
Like warm, solid, like straight vodka.
No.
That's the worst.
It's just, I don't know if I'm ever going to stop coughing again.
Talk about a life of suffering, right? De Kooning,
That's what
move
I'm
over.
talking about. Can we just get it on the calendar?
Like, De Kooning, you think you suffer?
Oh,
De
God.
Kooning, whatever. So, oh my God.
Okay. My husband made the point the other day. Any fam who watches Modern Family, the way Gloria sings. So Gloria is like the beautiful Sofia Vergara, and like, but the way she sings is very
Another beautiful
throaty.
woman married to a schlub, right? She's married to Al Bundy.
Yeah, she's married to Al Bundy, not Ted Bundy, but Al Bundy, who's like 100 years old. But she sings like this. She sings like really deep in her throat. That is how Daisy, my daughter, sings. Daisy will be like, "Let it go, let it go."
Daisy
and
girl.
Steve one day was like, "She sings like
She sings
Gloria,"
like Gloria.
and I was like, "Oh my!" She truly sings. Let her go, let her go. It's wild.
Daisy, use that head voice, girl. Give me some falsetto.
I know. She sings like Gloria. It's so funny.
It's very funny.